2026 is not just another year. It's the deadline your future has been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, most people overestimate what they can do in a day and dramatically underestimate what they can do in 1 year. Let me tell you something that might challenge you. Your future is not decided by your intentions. It's decided by your plan. If you don't design your life, life will design it for you. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to live by default. Transformation begins with clarity. Vague goals produce vague results. Do better, make more, be happier. That's not a plan, that's a wish. A 1-year success plan starts by asking, who do I want to become? What must I produce? What must I eliminate? Clarity is not optional, it's foundational. When your vision gets sharp, your actions get stronger. Successful people don't wake up every morning asking, should I do what I said I would do? They decided once. Indecision is expensive. Every time you renegotiate your commitment, you delay your destiny. A 1-year plan is not about motivation. It's about decision. Decide the direction, decide the discipline, decide the deadline, then move. Motivation is emotional. Structure is mechanical. Emotions rise and fall. Systems do not. Your 1-year success plan must be built on daily non-negotiables, weekly execution blocks, monthly checkpoints. If your progress depends on how you feel, you'll stop when it gets hard. If it depends on structure, you'll win even on hard days. Here's a truth most people miss. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you deserve. If you see yourself as average, you'll sabotage extraordinary opportunities. If you upgrade your identity, your behavior automatically upgrades. Your 1-year plan must include what you study, who you listen to, what standards you enforce. When your identity shifts, results follow. What you don't measure, you can't manage. Hope is not a strategy. Tracking is. Track your time, track your habits, track your results. A 1-year success plan turns life into data and data into decisions. When you measure the right things, improvement becomes inevitable. Here's the final truth. Consistency beats talent. Focus beats intensity. Execution beats ideas. You don't need 10 years. You need 1 focused year. 1 year of showing up, 1 year of disciplined execution, 1 year of refusing to quit. Do that, and you won't recognize your life. The question is not, can your life change in 1 year? The question is, will you commit to a plan or keep hoping without one? Because a year from now, time will pass anyway. The only difference is who you become. Clarity creates power because confusion is the silent thief of potential. Most people are not failing because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They are failing because they are unclear. An unclear mind produces scattered actions, and scattered actions produce weak results. When you don't know exactly what you want, life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. It drifts you toward average. Clarity is the moment you stop reacting and start directing. It is the moment your brain stops guessing and starts executing. The human mind is a goal-seeking mechanism, but it can only pursue what it can clearly see. If the target is blurry, the effort will be weak. The moment you define exactly who you want to become, what you want to achieve, and why it matters, your energy changes. Your confidence rises not because the goal is easy, but because the direction is certain. Clarity simplifies decision-making. When you are clear, you say no faster, you waste less time, and you stop chasing distractions disguised as opportunities. You no longer ask, is this good? You ask, does this move me closer to my vision? That single filter eliminates chaos. Clarity also exposes excuses. You can't hide behind busyness when you know precisely what matters. You can't blame circumstances when you have a defined path. Clarity demands responsibility, and responsibility is the price of power. Once you are clear, procrastination loses its grip because hesitation thrives only in uncertainty. Clear goals create urgency. Clear standards create discipline. Clear vision creates momentum. Clarity also rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes and start seeing yourself as someone who builds. Your language changes. Your posture changes. Your tolerance for mediocrity disappears. When your vision is clear, your actions align naturally because alignment feels better than resistance. You don't need external motivation when internal direction is strong. The clearer the destination, the harder it is to quit halfway. Obstacles don't disappear, but confusion does. And confusion is far more dangerous than obstacles. Obstacles can be overcome. Confusion keeps you stuck. Most breakthroughs don't come from doing more, they come from seeing better. Clarity sharpens focus, and focus multiplies force. A scattered army loses wars. A focused force changes history. The same is true for your life. The moment you gain clarity, you stop leaking energy into things that don't matter and start investing it into what does. That's when effort turns into progress, and progress turns into transformation. Clarity doesn't guarantee success, but without it, success is impossible. When you see clearly, you move boldly, and bold movement is where power is born. Decide once, don't redecide daily, because every time you reopen a decision, you leak power. Most people are exhausted not because they are doing too much, but because they are deciding the same thing over and over again. They wake up each day negotiating with themselves, should I work today or rest? Should I stay disciplined or take a break? Should I commit or wait? That internal debate drains energy before any real work even begins. High performers eliminate this drain by deciding once. They make a firm decision in advance, and then they simply execute. When the decision is settled, action becomes automatic. You don't argue with yourself about brushing your teeth. You decided long ago. The same principle applies to success. When commitment is final, resistance fades. Redeciding daily is a symptom of weak commitment. It feels harmless, but it's expensive. Each redecision opens the door to emotions, excuses, and circumstances. Feelings change. Circumstances shift. Energy fluctuates. If your progress depends on how you feel today, you will stop the moment discomfort appears. Deciding once creates stability in an unstable world. It removes emotion from execution. You don't need motivation when you've already made up your mind. The moment you decide once, discipline replaces debate. Your brain stops wasting energy on whether and focuses fully on how. Strong decisions also create speed. When you decide once, you move faster because there is no hesitation. Hesitation is the enemy of momentum. Momentum is not built by big dramatic actions, it's built by consistent follow-through. Every time you hesitate, momentum breaks. Every time you redecide, you slow yourself down. Deciding once locks in direction. It creates alignment between your goals and your behavior. You stop being pulled in multiple directions and start moving with force in one direction. Focus sharpens because there is no backup plan for quitting. Deciding once also strengthens your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. Your self-trust increases because you keep your word to yourself. That trust is powerful. When you trust yourself, confidence rises naturally. Confidence is not loud, it's settled. It's the quiet certainty that comes from knowing you will do what you said you would do, regardless of how you feel. That certainty changes how you show up in every area of life. Most people think freedom comes from keeping options open. In reality, power comes from closing options. When quitting is no longer an option, creativity increases. You find solutions because you must. Commitment forces growth. Comfort keeps you small. Deciding once is not about being rigid, it's about being resolved. You can adjust strategy without abandoning the decision. The goals stop, YS fixed, while the methods evolve. That's maturity. When you decide once, excuses lose their influence. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop needing reassurance. You already decided. And that single act, deciding once, creates an unfair advantage over people who are still debating. Over time, those small daily executions compound into massive results. Not because you were more talented, but because you were more decided. Structure beats motivation. Because motivation is unreliable, emotional, and temporary, it rises when things are exciting and disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. If your progress depends on how inspired you feel, you will move inconsistently and stop often. Structure removes feelings from the equation. It replaces emotional decision-making with predefined actions. When structure is in place, you don't ask yourself whether you feel like showing up. You simply follow the system. This is how real progress is built, not on bursts of excitement, but on repeatable behaviors that work even on your worst days. Motivation asks, do I feel ready? Structure says, this is what we do. That difference is everything. Structure creates certainty. It turns success into a routine instead of an event. When your day has a clear framework, specific times for focused work, learning, execution, and rest, you eliminate chaos. Chaos drains energy. Structure conserves it. You don't waste mental bandwidth deciding what to do next because the plan already exists. That saved energy gets redirected into performance. Structure also protects you from excuses. Excuses thrive in unplanned time. When your calendar is empty, distractions rush in to fill the space, but when your time is structured, distractions have nowhere to land. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on design. Willpower is weak. Design is strong. The environment you create determines the behavior you repeat. Structure shapes that environment so the right actions become easier and the wrong ones become inconvenient. Consistency is where structure truly shows its power. Anyone can perform when they feel motivated. Very few can perform when they are tired, bored, or frustrated. Structure ensures you do the work anyway. That's where separation happens. Results don't come from intensity, they come from consistency. And consistency is a byproduct of structure. When you know exactly what needs to be done each day, execution becomes mechanical. Mechanical actions repeated daily produce extraordinary outcomes over time. Structure also builds confidence. Every completed task reinforces self-trust. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, not someone who waits to feel inspired. That identity shift is powerful. Confidence grows not from hype, but from evidence. Structure gives you daily evidence that you are dependable. That dependability compounds into discipline, and discipline compounds into results. Most people overestimate motivation and underestimate preparation. They wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right moment. Structure creates the moment. It removes randomness from success. You stop living reactively and start operating intentionally. Even setbacks become easier to handle because structure gives you a way back on track. You don't spiral, you reset and continue. In the long run, motivation fades, but structure remains. Feelings change, systems endure. The people who win are not the most motivated. They are the most organized, the most consistent, and the most committed to their process. When structure is in place, progress becomes inevitable. Not because you feel like winning, but because your system makes quitting unnecessary. Upgrade your identity before your income, because money never outgrows the person managing it. Many people chase higher income without realizing they are carrying an old self-image into a new opportunity. When identity stays small, income eventually shrinks back to match it. You may temporarily earn more, but without an internal upgrade, fear, doubt, and poor decisions will quietly pull you back to familiar levels. Identity is the thermostat. Income is the temperature. You can spike income through effort, luck, or opportunity, but it will always return to the level your identity is set to maintain. Your identity controls your behavior. Behavior controls your results. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously create struggle. If you see yourself as someone who grows, learns, and adapts, you will naturally take actions that align with expansion. This is why true transformation feels internal before it looks external. When your identity changes, discipline becomes easier, standards rise, and tolerance for mediocrity disappears. You stop negotiating with low expectations because they no longer match who you believe you are. Upgrading your identity requires changing what you accept. You stop accepting excuses, inconsistency, and self-betrayal. You begin to accept responsibility, discomfort, and delayed gratification. This shift is subtle but powerful. You don't need to announce it. Your actions will reveal it. You start preparing more than necessary. You show up earlier. You follow through even when no one is watching. These behaviors are not forced. They are expressions of a new identity. You're not trying to act successful. You're acting in alignment with who you believe you are becoming. Your environment plays a critical role in identity. What you consume mentally shapes how you see yourself. The conversations you listen to, the standards you observe, and the examples you normalize either expand or limit your identity. When you expose yourself to higher thinking, disciplined behavior, and intentional living, your internal expectations rise. You begin to feel uncomfortable staying the same. That discomfort is a signal of growth. It means your identity is stretching beyond old limitations. Income follows identity because money responds to value. And value is created by people who think differently, decide faster, and execute with confidence. When you upgrade your identity, you take bigger responsibility, and bigger responsibility brings bigger rewards. You stop asking for permission and start solving problems. You stop focusing on what you can get and start focusing on who you must become. That shift attracts opportunities you couldn't see before because you weren't internally prepared for them. An upgraded identity also changes how you handle setbacks. You no longer interpret failure as proof that you are incapable. You see it as feedback. You don't collapse under pressure, you adjust. This resilience is not learned through motivation, it's built through identity. When you believe you are the kind of person who figures things out, quitting stops being an option. Raising your income without raising your identity is stressful. Raising your identity first makes higher income sustainable. You don't need to chase money when you become the person money follows. The moment you commit to becoming more disciplined, more focused, and more responsible than you were yesterday, your financial ceiling begins to rise automatically. Upgrade who you are, and what you earn will eventually catch up. Measure what matters, because progress that isn't tracked is progress that can't be trusted. Hope is not a strategy, and intention without measurement is just optimism. Most people believe they are improving simply because they are busy, but activity without measurement creates the illusion of progress. When you don't track the right things, you rely on feelings, and feelings are poor indicators of reality. Measurement replaces guesswork with clarity. It tells you the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable, and that honesty is what creates real change. What you measure begins to improve, not by accident, but by awareness. The moment you start tracking something, your behavior changes. Time measured is time respected. Money measured is money managed. Habits measured are habits corrected. Measurement shines a light on leaks of time, energy, focus, and discipline that quietly erode results. Without measurement, those leaks go unnoticed. With measurement, they become obvious and fixable. You stop lying to yourself about effort and start dealing with facts. Measuring what matters forces you to define what actually matters. Not everything deserves attention. Not every task produces results. When you measure outcomes instead of effort, you stop rewarding busyness and start rewarding effectiveness. You ask better questions. Did this move me forward? Did this produce value? Did this align with my goal? Measurement creates alignment between intention and execution. It keeps you from drifting into comfortable routines that feel productive but lead nowhere. Measurement also creates accountability. When numbers are visible, excuses disappear. You can't negotiate with data. You can explain a bad day, but you can't explain away a bad trend. Trends reveal patterns, and patterns reveal truth. Once you see the pattern, you can change it. Without measurement, you repeat the same mistakes while expecting different outcomes. With measurement, adjustment becomes automatic. You stop guessing and start optimizing. Tracking progress builds momentum. Small wins become visible, and visible wins build confidence. Confidence doesn't come from hype, it comes from evidence. Measurement provides that evidence. It shows you that effort is compounding, even when results are not yet dramatic. This keeps you consistent during the slow phase, the phase where most people quit because they feel like nothing is working. Measurement reminds you that growth is happening beneath the surface. Measuring what matters also sharpens focus. When you know what you are tracking, you know what to prioritize. Distractions lose their appeal because they don't show up on the scoreboard. You stop reacting to noise and start responding to numbers. This clarity reduces stress because you no longer feel pulled in every direction. You know exactly where to put your attention and where to withdraw. In the long run, success is not mysterious. It is measurable. The difference between people who transform and people who stay stuck is not desire. It is tracking. Those who measure what matters gain control over their progress. Control creates confidence. Confidence fuels execution, and execution produces results. When you measure the right things consistently, improvement stops being optional. It becomes inevitable. Execute relentlessly for 12 months. Because consistency over time is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Most people don't fail from lack of ideas or opportunity. They fail from lack of sustained execution. They start strong, then slow down. They get excited, then distracted. They work hard for a few weeks, then disappear for a few months. Relentless execution eliminates this cycle. It is not about intensity, it is about endurance. It is about showing up on the days you don't feel progress, don't feel confident, and don't feel motivated. Momentum is built by continuity, not bursts. 12 months of focused execution can compress years of progress because compounding rewards those who stay in motion. Each day of execution builds on the last. Skills sharpen, confidence grows, resistance weakens. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Relentless execution creates familiarity with discipline, and familiarity removes fear. You stop asking whether it will work and start asking how far it can go. Relentless execution also removes the need for perfection. When you commit to executing daily, you stop overthinking and start refining through action. Progress comes from movement, not planning alone. Mistakes become feedback instead of failures. You adjust, refine, and continue. The speed of improvement increases because execution exposes weaknesses faster than thinking ever could. You don't need the perfect plan. You need a consistent one. Executing relentlessly requires emotional maturity. You learn to work without applause. You learn to continue without immediate results. Most people quit in the invisible phase, the period where effort is high and recognition is low. Those who persist through this phase gain an unfair advantage. Results lag behind effort, but they always catch up. The ones who stay long enough are the ones who collect the rewards. Relentless execution builds identity. After months of showing up, you no longer see yourself as someone who tries. You see yourself as someone who does. This self-trust is powerful. It changes how you approach challenges. You no longer panic under pressure because you trust your process. You've proven to yourself that you can endure discomfort and keep moving. That proof is more valuable than motivation. Over 12 months, execution creates clarity. You learn what works and what doesn't through repetition. Guesswork disappears. Confidence becomes grounded in experience. You stop chasing shortcuts because you understand the value of accumulation. Small daily actions repeated relentlessly produce outcomes that look dramatic from the outside but feel inevitable on the inside. Executing relentlessly does not mean burning out. It means being disciplined, structured, and committed. It means resting with intention and working with purpose. It means refusing to quit even when progress feels slow. 1 year of this level of commitment can transform your skills, your income, your confidence, and your identity. Time will pass regardless. The question is whether the next 12 months will be filled with excuses or execution. When you choose relentless execution, transformation is no longer a possibility, it becomes the natural outcome. In the end, transformation is not a mystery. It's a decision followed by discipline. Clarity gives you direction. A single decision gives you commitment. Structure gives you consistency. Identity gives you confidence. Measurement gives you control. And relentless execution gives you results. None of these work alone, but together they create unstoppable momentum. This is how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. Not by luck, not by talent, but by design. The next 12 months are coming, whether you prepare or not. The question is not what you want to change, but what you are willing to commit to. 1 year from now, you will be in a different place, either because you intentionally built it or because you allowed time to pass without purpose. Success is not found in wishing. For a better future, it is created by daily actions aligned with a clear plan. Make the decision today to stop drifting and start directing. Decide who you are becoming, build the structure to support it, measure what matters, and execute without negotiation. If you do that consistently, relentlessly, and intentionally, your life will not just improve, it will transform. The power is not in the year ahead. The power is in what you choose to do with it starting now.